Hi everyone, my name is Mike Tork. I'm our VP of Platform Engineering at Fivetran, and I'm going to talk about how we migrated our enterprise observability in 60 days. Has anyone heard of Fivetran before? Oh, so we have a few of you who've heard of us. Of course, those of you at Grafana, who we work with. So a quick agenda. I'll tell you a little bit about Fivetran and myself, and then we'll talk about our infrastructure footprint, like what did we actually migrate, what our requirements for observability were, who the people involved are, what our strategy and execution was, and then lessons we learned from the migration. So Fivetran, founded in 2012. We've been around for a little while. We have 10,000 customers and a little over 1,200 employees, and then offices around the world, and our platform engineering organization that includes 4 SRE teams that are located around the world who are very involved in this migration. And so what do we do? So we sync data from about 600 different sources to a few dozen destinations. So if you have any one of these sources or a number of others, with one click, we'll sync data over to data warehouses, data lakes, and anything in between. Our motto is that we want to make data as simple and reliable as electricity. You just plug Fivetran in and your data syncs from point A to point B. So why do customers use our product? We're reliable. We're fast. It's cheaper than paying your data engineering team to build custom pipelines so that they can spend their time doing analysis or data science. We run about 6 million syncs a day, which is in here. And so I'll talk about the observability requirements on 6 million syncs because we do run a pretty big infrastructure. And we're scalable and secure. And so we sync data quickly or we sync it fast or both. So before I move on, I'll talk a little bit about me. So at our all hands, we have a segment called Meet a Fivetranner. And so I'll give you the 30-second version. I learned to program on an Apple IIe. I went to West Point, majored in computer science, was in the Army for 5 years, doing mostly networking and communications. Then worked for Northrop Grumman for a little while, and then Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles. After that, I was at Google for about 8.5 years. And along the way, picked up an MBA from Colorado State. I had a son who was born while I was at Google and then was at Hippo, which is an insurtech, where we used Grafana open source. And we were also a customer of Fivetran. So I kind of have experience with both as a customer, and then have been at Fivetran for 3 years, leading platform engineering. And so our platform engineering group, this is just a quick view of our engineering organization. We have a few peer organizations that build other parts of Fivetran, and then in platform engineering, we build the core and the base of Fivetran. So infrastructure, core software, quality engineering, and we have a performance engineering team, and then our SRE and operations team. So that's how we're organized. And this project to migrate was mostly run by our SRE team. So our infrastructure, what did we actually need to monitor and observe? We run about 39 regions. Each region has a couple of Kubernetes clusters. You can see the zoom on the left side of our regional setup where we have a connector cluster where we do the data syncs, and then a supporting services cluster. And then we also provide buckets and tunnels in each region. And so with the 39 or so regions, this says 38, but we have one more now. We probably run thousands of servers at any one time and tens of thousands of pods. So it's a pretty big infrastructure to observe, and we had to switch it over. Our footprint on observability, here's just a quick summary of the kind of volumes. So things to note is 170 terabytes or more of logs. Logs and metrics are our primary way that we run observability, but we also use synthetics traces. And then we have a lot of alerts and dashboards. We allow individual engineering teams, of which we have about 50, to configure their own alerts and dashboards. And so teams will run their own operations as a franchise where they're responsible for their components in production. And we do run a centralized SRE on call as well as a backstop. And then we're working on profiles right now so that we can profile our software in production. So pretty big footprint. The people involved in moving this footprint, we have about 30 SREs in our organization, 300 software engineers that are scattered across about 50 teams. and then 150 support engineers who support our customers every day. And when we moved, couldn't miss a beat. And so these are the different things these groups do. So our SRE team, they do pretty deep dives and investigations, as well as dashboarding and alerting. They also do capacity monitoring and capacity planning. Our software engineers, they need to look into both logs and metrics to fix complicated problems, and they do their own dashboarding and alerting as well. And then our support engineering group, they're pretty heavy logs users. They work with customers to solve problems, and so they want to go through logs of every single sync that's involved and understand what happened and why did it happen. So we couldn't let them down as we moved. So the goals of our migration. We moved from New Relic to Grafana. Our annual contracts for New Relic were a surprise every year, both in the cost and then the pricing. And after I was at Fivetran for 2 years in a row, and after 2 difficult negotiations, we said, well, okay, we need to move to something else. Cost efficiency is important to us, and we didn't know it at the time, but we wanted faster queries. Our logs queries in New Relic were slow and getting slower, and we realized this after we moved to Grafana, that our log queries were much faster after we moved. And then open source compatibility. Using OpenTelemetry, we still do use FluentBit and Micrometer as well. And so we wanted compatibility as we moved to a solution. And so what were the goals of this move? We wanted some reasonable cost and value. We did not want to run our observability infrastructure ourselves. We said someone else can do it better than us. We don't want the headache of doing it. We did do a cost analysis, and it is a little bit cheaper to run it ourselves, but it comes with a whole lot more headache, and that's not something we wanted. That's not our core competency. We wanted a stable vendor and long-term partner, no more surprises. It couldn't affect reliability. Those 6 million syncs needed to continue to run, and our support team needed to be able to support the 6 million syncs. And then we still wanted best-in-class logs and metrics and a single solution for all of this. We didn't want to have to go from system to system to system to look at what's going on with all of our syncs. And by the way, if you have any questions as I'm going on, I'm happy to answer as we go so that we don't run out of time. So our strategy, we evaluated 3 solutions. Grafana was one of those 3 solutions. What we did as part of the planning is that we estimated each task with every possible solution. So we did both planning and evaluation at the same time. That let us have a pretty good idea when it was time to migrate of what we were dealing with. We also decided when we chose Grafana that we needed to run Grafana and New Relic in parallel for 30 days. And we needed to develop training to hit the hotspots, especially logs. We knew that logs adoption would be something that could burn us if our support couldn't pick up the new log solution. And so this is an example of how we planned. This is just an excerpt from one of our spreadsheets. We had our different tasks during our evaluation. We had all 3 solutions, and we looked at each task and estimated how long it would take. This is a very generalized version, but we went more specific than this. So the execution, the one thing we did is we assigned a lead team. We have 4 SRE teams, and we said one team is the lead team. This team is going to spend most of their time on this, and this team's going to be responsible for this move. We ordered the work well. For example, we knew we needed to migrate alerts after metrics, and so we carefully ordered all of the tasks to move to make sure that we could do this move. And we broke down the estimates into really small tasks so that we could parallelize this across not only the same SRE team, but have other SRE teams help, especially during the night for our teams. We set expectations. We knew that we may need another 30 days of running each system in parallel, and we might incur more cost, and that was okay by us. And then we also knew that querying our logs and metrics might be slower. We knew that our support team might need more help and that we might need more of our SREs to be available. And then we needed to have a multi-level training strategy. We needed to train on Grafana. We needed to provide ways to understand what the difference between a New Relic query and a Grafana log query was, office hours and help channels. And the Grafana account team also had a shared Slack channel with us. And so they answered question after question. I think we peppered them with, I don't know, a few hundred questions as we moved on. So they also helped us finish this migration. Here's a timeline. This is basically verbatim of what we told our engineering teams. We said on August 5th, we're going to start migration and we're going to finish around October 5th. We kind of took the line in the sand strategy with this. It said, well, if we say it's going to be 60 days, we'll finish in 60 days. If we say it's going to be 90, we'll finish in 90. So we set 60 days as the goal. It was an ambitious goal, but we thought we could do it. And so in August, we would start migration. In September, we would have all of our telemetry, logs, metrics, and everything else also pushed to Grafana in parallel. We moved all of our terraformed alerts and dashboards to Grafana during that. And so over time, we switched to Grafana as the primary alerting solution by the end of September. And so we still had New Relic running for reference, but we told our teams, you should really be using Grafana, and our alerts are running on Grafana. And then we set a cutoff date for New Relic. We pulled everyone's access at the beginning of October and said, well, now you have to use Grafana. All of our alerts are on Grafana. We still had New Relic running for a little while, and it took us a little longer. But by October, we were removing users and shutting down our old solution. So roughly 60 days. This was the migration plan that was communicated by our SREs. So the first thing they said is we're pushing telemetry, then we're migrating terraformed alerts and dashboards. Teams that didn't terraform their alerts and dashboards would have to migrate them themselves. And we told those teams that. We thought it would also give them a chance to learn Grafana. And so they took that opportunity to recreate some of their alerts and dashboards and leave some behind. Then we'd shut off New Relic. And then we also have runbooks and a Zendesk integration. So runbooks for our engineering teams. And then our support, what we did is we just have a link for them to click when there's an incident, and it goes right into our observability tool. So we kind of did instant migration with that by just switching the link over when it was time. And so that kind of put them into Grafana instead of New Relic anyway. And so we set expectations with our engineering teams. We told them, use Grafana ASAP, don't wait, because you're going to have to use it. Eventually, we're going to shut off New Relic and you won't have access. We told them to manually migrate your dashboards and alerts, and to update your own service docs and runbooks. And so our engineering teams did this, as well as our centralized SRE team. And then we had a support plan for this. The support plan for making sure that we could support this 60-day migration, which was ambitious, was shared Slack channels. So our SREs had a Slack channel with all of our engineers. They answered any question that came. And then we also had a shared Slack channel with the account team. The account team provided live training. So we had a number of live training sessions. PromQL is in some ways a black art. And so we had to train both SREs and engineers how to use it and how to do log queries. I told you about our Zendesk integration, so we just pointed those over. We maintain these internal channels and we staff them 24/7. So we had extra SREs on call. And because we run 4 different regions, there's always someone up during the day. We had office hours. So our SRE ran, I believe it was multiple time a week office hours that people could sign up for. And at first they used them pretty often. And then after a while, they stopped being attended. And then the other thing we did, which was kind of a support plan, was we added some of our senior support engineers into our evaluation, and we asked them to evaluate the solutions before we started. And so we kind of got support buy-in for what we were going to choose and how we were going to use it before we actually started the migration, which helped get adoption in our support team, because that was the biggest thing we were worried about, was logs. And then we provided a number of training resources. These are all links that go into our internal wiki. We have something called Fivetran Academy, where people have self-paced learning. We added courses in there, and we required everyone to take at least something. And then we had different articles, one for just an overview of Grafana Cloud, how support uses Grafana, how to use Grafana for logs, so a little deeper dive, because logs were new for us compared to New Relic. Query mapping between the two, so we actually had some side-by-side queries to provide people, you used to do this, now you do this. And then how to use filters correctly, which was something that teams got used to, but also helped us do really quick log queries, because once we learned how to filter, the queries went a lot quicker. So some lessons we learned from this. Using standards helped us because we were able to just switch
it actually made the switch really quickly because we could just stream our logs and metrics into multiple systems at once. And so we kind of got a jump on migrating. We fixed existing logic. So fixing labeling, we got rid of metrics, we changed labels, even dashboards and alerts we got rid of. So it was a good time for cleanup. And so we reduced our logs, metrics, dashboards, and alerts while we moved, and it let us clean house a little bit. And then the thing about this observability migration is it really is just a people problem. Our SRE team probably could have switched in 2 weeks. The problem is getting everyone using the system and our support not missing a beat and our engineers used to creating dashboards and us not sacrificing Fivetran's reliability. And so that's really what took the 60 days or a little longer. And then the last thing, which is a lesson learned that we would go back and do, is spend more time learning PromQL up front. PromQL is difficult. Hopefully with AI that becomes easier because the AI can create your PromQL for you. But that was probably one of our more complex parts of the migration, especially for our SRE team, because we have a few complex alerts in our system for making sure that we can observe our syncs. So to sum up, we were successful. We did make it in around 60 days. We had some things that took longer. Doc cleanup took longer. We intentionally chose not to manage our costs in that 60 days. We just knew it would cost more. And then we reduced our costs in Grafana as we went on. And so that's one of the things we just chose not to do, which didn't distract us from the main task of migrating. We solved our problems. Our cost problems were solved. Our pricing and unpredictability were also solved. And now we have a predictable solution and a partner that works well with us. And we're happy with where we are with Grafana. Our support team is happier too. They really like the logs query performance. And as they got used to the filters, they can do a query now that used to take them 30 seconds and it takes a second and a half. And so our support team feels like they can solve problems more quickly. And we applied these lessons because we like punishment so much. This year, we did a migration from our old project management solution to Jira. And so we did learn some lessons in another difficult migration.